one of the first things that I talk to my guys about when they come to preseason camp is how they can change the world through the game that they love to play. Or specifically, at least, how they can change a small part of the world through the game that they love to play. And I remind them that when they were in junior high, that one of the things that they believed that probably wasn't true was that everybody was always looking at them. You know, you'd be in the mall and your parents gave you a bad haircut, or they gave you some bad outfit, and you're convinced everyone's looking at you. And the reality is, when you're that age, people really don't care and aren't looking at you. But I remind the guys that when they're on the pitch is one of the few times in their life where there are people, and sometimes lots of people, that are there just to see you and the other 21 players that are playing. And because of that, because your actions are being watched by so many people, it is one of the times that you can do things and make choices that can cause lots of people to think a lot of important things. And I like telling the guys a story of, it's a well-known story here at Wheaton College, of a young man many years ago in Wheaton soccer by the name of Bill Bott. Bill was a goalkeeper here at Wheaton, and he was in a game that would decide the conference championship for Wheaton men's soccer. And it was a very hotly contested game, and Wheaton was up by 1. It was 20 minutes or so left in the game, and there was a shot, and Bill went to dive to save the ball, and it just went underneath him. And he turned around to pick the ball out of the net, but to his surprise, the ball wasn't in the net. It was actually well behind the goal, way in the backdrop. So he thought for the second, well, I guess they must have missed outside the post. So he went and got the ball. The other college argued for a while that the ball did go in the net, but nobody could see any holes in the net, so they figured that it just must have just barely missed outside the far post. Well, as it turned out, the more and more Bill thought about it, the more he realized, wait a minute, there's something wrong here. Where I was, there's no way that ball was outside the far post. So after the game, he goes back to an elderly gentleman. You know how sometimes in colleges there's some guy that's sitting into every game with his own chair. There's a gentleman way back then that used to sit in his own chair well behind the far goal. And he said, "Sir, I got to ask you, you know that shot they took, did that possibly go in?" He goes, "Oh, yep, sure went in. There must be a hole right in the goal." So he goes over and he's checking the net. It doesn't look like there's a hole. But sure enough, even though it doesn't look like it, he finds that there's a hole in the side netting. And clearly the ball had to have gone in and through that hole. So he goes and tells the coach about this, and they go to the referee and they say, you know, we didn't win this game in fair fashion. It's our home field. We're responsible for good nets. The ball went in the net, and it should have stayed in the net, but it didn't, and they called no goal. And the referee said, "There's nothing I can really do," and that was it. Well, Bill wouldn't let this go. And Bill talked to Coach Bean and really pushed that, "Coach, this is not the way that we should win." And the more that the coaching staff and the more that the players thought about it, they said, "That's true." And they called the director of officials and the conference chairman, and they said, "This is just not the way we want to win a conference championship." And so after a lot of discussion, that game was actually replayed, all because one young man made a choice to put something ahead of winning and losing. That story made its way into one of the main New York newspapers, into the Chicago Tribune, into the National Soccer Coaches Association of America, the Journal from around the world. There were people from around the world that read that story and were motivated to think about what's important when you play the game. And he changed the world, or at least a small part of the world, by making a great choice. So I remind our guys that we've got a chance to do that. Every time they make a choice on how to treat each other, people are watching. Every time they make a choice on how to respond to a bad call, people are watching. And what a cool opportunity to change a small part of the world by making right choices. Making choices that will make people realize some things are more important than just winning games.